My name is Sonia from Create Education, and today I'm joined by Steve Cox, who is going to tell us all about his career in engineering and in additive manufacturing. So welcome, Steve. Thank you for your time today.
Hi, Sonia.
Hi. So what I'd like to do is start by asking you about what you currently do.
Yeah, so I've got kind of an interesting job now. I'm actually self-employed, so I work for myself, and I do so many different things. It's sometimes difficult to put a complete label on it, but the one that I use is I call myself a 3D technologies consultant and trainer. And what that means is being a consultant means kind of using your knowledge to help other people. So whether that be through advice or training or that kind of thing. And that spans everything from 3D technologies like additive manufacturing and 3D printing through to 3D design. So it's really trying to equip people with, what they need to be successful in those areas.
And I suppose a job like that would mean that there's lots and lots of variety in your job. You get to do lots of different things, do you?
Yeah, one of the fantastic things about my job is no 2 days are the same. Every day is different, and that's what really keeps it interesting. So it's not a job where kind of, from day to day, I'm going to be doing exactly the same thing. One day I might be training, next day I might be designing stuff, next day I might be 3D printing stuff. So, every day has got a different kind of theme to it almost.
Okay, so let's think about where it all started then, about your education. What education did you have, obviously, when you were younger, and what sort of further training during your career have you had to do in order to progress to what you're doing now?
Yeah, so after being at school up until 18 and taking GCSE, O levels and A levels as they were called back then, I went to university. So I did a 4-year mechanical engineering degree at Loughborough University. And that was fantastic because I was actually sponsored by Jaguar cars at the time to go through university, and those 4 years were 3 years of kind of academic study with a year's worth of apprenticeship kind of threaded through them. And I think that equipped me really well, because I think I came out a better engineer, having done both an apprenticeship and a degree at the same time.
Okay, and since then, what further training have you had to have? Because obviously additive manufacturing has developed significantly as a separate industry in the last few years. So what have you had to do since then to skill yourself up?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is after I graduated, I went on to work for Jaguar cars, and I did that for 34 years. So I spent 34 years in the automotive industry, designing, developing, project managing brand new cars, from concept to production. And that was fantastic. But then I kind of came to additive manufacturing and 3D printing a relatively short time ago. So after that 34-year stint, I decided to take a complete career change. And the reason for that is 3D printing really excited me as something that was, about to explode. And, I could see some areas where I could potentially take that, and I wanted to be part of that. So about 8 years ago, I kind of left Jaguar Land Rover, as it had become then, and got into 3D printing and kind of taught myself how to 3D print, and then everything's kind of gone on from there. But I would say in that 8 years, since I quit JLR, every day's been a school day. There's always something new to learn. So, and that might be 3D design, it might be new techniques with additive manufacturing, 3D printing, a lot of stuff about materials that you need to know. So there's an awful lot of things I've learned over the last 8 years, and if anything, that's kept it really interesting, and I'm still learning. This sector is kind of moving so quickly that you can't stand still. You have to keep learning.
So briefly, you did just say that during your career, the majority of your career was actually spent at Jaguar Land Rover. So can you tell me some of the highlights and memorable experiences from that part of your career?
I mean, some of the real standout things were, spending a month in Australia testing prototype cars, driving them through the outback, and then I spent another a period for about 6.5 weeks in the frozen north of Ontario in Canada, testing cars down to kind of -40. I'm not sure whether it's a highlight, but on one day with the wind chill, it was the equivalent of -70, and we had to go outside and start a car. So So they're kind of interesting experiences, and the automotive industry, gave me a lot of those experiences, through my time. And I think one of the best things about working in automotive is, as an engineer, the ability, after a car that you've been working on for maybe 3.5 years got launched and was finally on the streets, the ability to kind of point to it and say, I did that, or I did that part of that, or me and my team did that part of that car. It was almost like, I did that, and be able to show people was always a real highlight, I think, of working in the automotive industry.
It sounds like it was really fun times.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So what about the role that you're doing now then? So what do you enjoy about what you're doing?
I think one of the things I really enjoy about what I'm doing now is kind of helping people, really. That thing about the consultancy where it's about giving people advice and training.
Do you have any further sort of career aspirations or plans for your future career?
Not really, other than keep enjoying what I'm doing. When I kind of took this path 8 years ago, I said one of my goals was to never feel like I'm going to work another day in my life. And yes, I'm still working, but it's not working in the sense that you understand, where it's a job that you feel like you're kind of tied to and you don't enjoy. It doesn't feel like work, because I enjoy every day and I enjoy everything that I do. So my only aspiration is really to keep on doing that, to keep enjoying every day, and not have every day feel like it's a work day.
That's a great philosophy to have around work, isn't it? Brilliant. So just one final question then, really, to wrap up is, a couple really. So how do you think our education system could best prepare people for job roles of the future in this field?
They need to be aware of it, and I think that's where career education really fits into this. Helping with that awareness for educators. A voluntary role that I do is something called an enterprise advisor. So I'm an enterprise advisor to 2 local schools, and that role is really about ensuring that educators understand the jobs market and the careers, not just for today, but where some of these technologies are heading tomorrow. And 3D printing and additive manufacturing is a kind of typical example of that, that we need educators to understand, where this technology is going. So I think it's just really, educators have a tough time. I think, they focused very much on getting across the skills and the learning that they need to give to students, but and I think they're so busy doing that, sometimes it's really difficult for them to see what's happening in the jobs market, in the careers world, which is changing so fast. I think that's the thing. Over the last 20 years, the jobs market and the careers outlook is changing day by day. It's such a fast moving thing that you've got to keep on top of it. And I think 3D printing is just a great example of an industry that's kind of all of a sudden ballooned in the last 10 years, and it's continuing to kind of evolve and change. And we need to keep educators, on top of that, so they understand what some of the opportunities might be that come out of that.
Okay, and one final piece of advice to the students that are listening to this then. What advice would you offer to those students that might be interested in pursuing maybe a career in this field?
I think one of the pieces of advice I give to any student now is just 2 words, and that's lifelong learning. Don't think that, once you finish school, college, university, that's the end of your kind of learning process, and then it's about going out there and using that learning. You have to see every day as a learning day, I think, and I think part of that is because of knowledge is moving so quickly, that what you knew today about something yesterday might be out of date tomorrow. And you've got to keep learning, you've got to keep on top of that, being adaptable to changes that might take place, and new technologies that might come along. And I suppose I'm a kind of an example of that. I was a mechanical engineer who worked a long time in the automotive industry, and I switched into additive manufacturing and 3D printing. So be prepared to kind of make that change. But this is a great sector to be in, because it's so exciting, it's so vibrant.
One more then. Anything students could do now you know, not when they've finished their exams and they've gone on, you know, to maybe an apprenticeship or university, you know, what would younger students maybe do now to help prepare themselves or learn more about this?
Just look around you and think about how you might solve a problem, for instance. You know, the great thing about engineering is, you know, there's no shortage of engineering problems to solve. It's not like we're sitting here thinking, well, what do we go solve next? You know, there's a lot of big challenges that we've got ahead of us, and I think engineering is going to play a lot into that. So things like, you know, the environment and climate change and all of that, you know, we're going to need people who are really good at problem solving. So, you know, maybe just look around you, see a problem, and then just try and solve it. And if that involves a bit of 3D design and a bit of 3D printing, you know, that's even better.
Great stuff. Well, thank you so much for your time and your words of advice, Steve.
Okay, it's been my pleasure. Thanks a lot.